Hello everybody, welcome back to Mooseville Off Grid. For the past 2 or 3 weeks I've been doing pet care up in the Keweenaw Peninsula of the Upper Peninsula. This is some folks that I watch their pets every year, especially during the holidays. Part of this time was not during the holidays because I had some extra needs, but this is part of the way that I earn a little bit of extra money to help pay for the current project. So this is Scrumpy, and he'll be joining us until he decides to jump down. But it's one of the pets that I'm watching. There's 2 cats here at the house, and I won't be showing any more views of the house because this is not my residence. I've had a number of questions on the channel about how I'm going to do things and what I'm going to do and various things like that. So I thought today would be a good day to go through some of those questions and answer them maybe in a little bit more detail than I had been able to do in the brief comments that I had tried to respond to. I think a question that I've gotten probably most often is, what am I going to do for a place to stay during the winter, since I can't really start the majority of the build for my new residence until after the cold weather is done, because I can't pour concrete when it's freezing outside. I was a bit vague in answering that question because I really didn't have an answer. I wasn't quite sure what was going to be happening, but things are beginning to fall into place, and my current thoughts are to spend from roughly now through the end of April up here at the university where I used to work, and to go ahead and work up here. This will give me an opportunity to earn a little bit of money to help pay for the build, to pay for some of the permits and things like that. It will also give me a place to stay that is warm and comfortable, and kind of makes it a win-win type of situation. My preference would be to be on the property and working on the project, but in actuality that's just not a realistic type of activity, because I can't even get the foundation installed until after it's not so cold outside. If the camera starts to shake, it's because the other cat is sniffing the tripod. We're just going to have to deal with a shaky camera until he stops doing his thing. You want to come up here, Takeable? It's like, no, I don't want to be up there with 2 cats. And you. Okay, so that kind of summarizes what I'm going to be doing, and I do plan to continue making videos, and I will work on some of the items for the inside of the house. For instance, I can go ahead and build the kitchen cabinets and various things like that, and then transport all of them back to the property by U-Haul truck at the end of my work up here. I'll be working probably 40 hours a week, but I'll have my weekends available to work on projects, and that will give me an opportunity to get some of this stuff done in advance. Normally I wouldn't work on cabinets and interior type things until after the house was built, but sometimes you do what you got to do because that's the way the timing happens. I have been ordering a lot of the supplies and tools that I need for the build, because there is an extensive number of tools that I need. I need a table saw, a chop saw, air compressor, various types of brad nailers and things like that, a generator, and so on. I have not been ordering any of the wood or any of the actual building materials yet, because if I did, it would just sit out in the open and get exposed to weather, and it might as well sit in Home Depot or some other facility until I actually need it. So what kind of work will I be doing up here at the university? Well, as a lot of you know, I have a PhD and I graduated from Michigan Tech, and my specialty is the study of moose. But I also have the ability to do a lot of other work, and so I'm going to do anything that someone will pay me to do. It will give me an opportunity to earn a little bit of income. I'll stay up here renting a room somewhere for something in the neighborhood of $500 to $600 a month, and then I'll put all the rest of the money towards bills or in savings for as soon as I get back. Of course, during the time that I'm not building, I'm going to go ahead and get my permits submitted to the county. I need to have a building permit for the house. I'll need to have a septic permit for the septic. I have no choice but to put in some type of septic. I do plan to have a composting toilet, so I can have an alternate type septic system that I may be able to get away from having a really expensive one, but I still have to have one. The facility that I'm located in, the neighborhood that I'm located in, is really a nice place, but it does have some types of restrictions. There is an HOA, and I'm not a big fan of HOAs, but in this particular case, I kind of go along with it because it keeps the facility really nice. The prices of the lots or the land there is relatively cheap, and if there wasn't some type of oversight, then you would get a lot of undesirable type of property there, broken down cars and houses in disrepair and things like that. This particular HOA, with its covenants and its guidelines, make sure the entire area stays really nice. How much are the HOA fees? Well, they're approximately $500 a year for the land that I own. I own 2 lots, so I have to pay 2 HOA fees, and together they're right at about $500 a year. And the benefit of that is I get access to a swimming pool. They've got a golf course, horse stables. They've got their own airport. They've got snowmobile trails. They've got 4-wheeler trails. They have an office with Wi-Fi. They've got bathrooms. They've got a couple of lakes that you can fish in or put a non-motorized boat in, and all kinds of other types of benefits that come with living in a place like this. So I chose to stay here even knowing that the HOA was here. Now, on the flip side of that, there are some disadvantages. Like, for instance, you remember in the last video or so, I started working on the foundation for the shed and putting in those screw pilings, and I submitted my application to build the shed because I wanted to build the shed before I built the house, so I had a place to store my tools, but that application was denied. And the reason was, according to the covenants, you have to build the house first before you build an accessory structure. I guess they don't want various accessory structures built on property and then people not building the house or something like that. One person had suggested that I could stay on the property in a tent or an RV or something like that, and that's one of the other things that is against the covenants. You are not allowed to live on the property unless you have a completed house or structure of some kind. If you're going to stay in a tent or in an RV of some kind, you must stay at the campground, and the complex does have their own campground that you can rent either by the day, by the week, by the month, and so on. It's a really nice campground, but you know, it's still extra money out of your pocket. Another question I have gotten from a few folks is, what kind of structure am I planning on building? And originally I was going to build a house and a workshop, but because the permit for the workshop got turned down, I have decided to incorporate everything into one structure. Now, according to the HOA rules, I have to build a house that is at least 600 square feet, and that's pretty big for me, actually. Previously, I've lived on small sailboats, and I've lived in tiny houses, and I've lived in single rooms in someone's house, dormitory rooms and stuff like that. I really don't have the need for a big house. But, and in order to be in compliance with the HOA rules, I'll build one that's 600 square feet. And that's roughly going to be a house that is 20 feet by 30 feet. And something that looks something like these pictures here. I'll download a set of building plans off of Etsy, which is where these are from, and then I'll build it roughly according to the plans that I download, and then adjust the interior to be to my liking. I'll have one bedroom, a kitchen, a bathroom, and a general workroom, or great room as some people would call it. And then the back portion of the house, there'll be a storage area and a workshop area for tools and things like that. And that way I can put everything under one roof, and it will all be part of the required 600 square feet. And I think that will work out pretty well for me. I'll be able to go into the workshop from the main house in the middle of winter and still be able to do projects and things like that without having to go out into the yard. Eventually I'll build myself a structure to park the ATV under, kind of a roof type affair, an outdoor thing. I won't build an actual garage. It'll just be a roof type structure, and probably will be large enough to have some work area underneath it in case I need to do work on the ATV or park the wagon under there and things like that. Probably even storage for things like garden tools, and then on one end of it maybe have an area for firewood storage. I do plan to have a wood stove in my house. I live up in an area where there is a lot of available wood, and I prefer a wood stove, and so that's going to be one of the things that I plan on having. I will probably be building myself some furniture for out in the yard, and eventually building a fire pit and maybe a little outdoor kitchen area, an observatory, and so on. So these projects, even though some of them are going to be somewhat big, other ones will be more of a respectable nature, kind of a weekend project or 2 or 3 week project instead of a gigantic build. I do plan to build most of it myself, and yes, it's going to be challenging to do all of this myself, but there are ways to do things by using blocks and pulleys and jacks and things like that. So it is possible to do things in a safe way and still do them on your own. And I intend to do this as safe as humanly possible, and to use the various pieces of equipment and knowledge that I can gather to do all of this. Now, I'm only 5'2", I'm 69 years old. I realize I have tons of limitations, but if you don't try, you've already failed. That's kind of my thoughts about it. And yes, I may indeed hit a roadblock. I may indeed fail. I may indeed not succeed, but I'm going to try anyway. And we're just going to move forward and do the very best we can. There may be portions of this build that are impossible for one person to do alone, and for those particular parts of the build, I'll get some help. There are other parts of the build that will require certifications, like the septic has to be installed by a licensed septic installer, and so I will hire someone to do the portions that they have to do, and I'll assist them or work with them to try and keep the prices in my price range, which is almost zero. But of course they're not going to work for zero. Another question that has been posed by a couple of people is, how am I going to get food and supplies, gasoline, and so on, since I'm not driving anymore? And yes, I have given up my car and I'm not driving anymore. I can still drive. It's just that I feel more comfortable not driving. So if you see me on occasion renting a U-Haul or something like that in order to move things around, just know that it's okay for me to drive 80-85% of the time. It's that 10 to 15% that I decided to give up driving for. The times when it's storming or raining, or it's somewhat foggy or dark outside, or it's snowing hard or something like that. That's why I gave up driving. I just didn't feel comfortable doing it anymore. But I'm still able to drive. It's still legal for me to drive. And I will, on occasion, take advantage of driving. But next to my complex is a little grocery store that's called the Northern Bear, a country store, and they sell gasoline and a couple of hardware type supplies, and they sell a couple of food items and food supplies and things like that. That is close enough that I can ride to it on my ATV and not have to go on any commercial roads at all. For groceries and food type items, I will use Amazon Prime, and I'll also use Walmart Plus. I signed up for a Walmart Plus subscription, and Walmart Plus will bring me my drugs, pharmacy type items, and they will also bring me the food items that I order and drop it off right at my doorstep, and that makes it wonderful. There are occasions it would be nice to go shopping myself, but unless I take an Uber into town, which would cost me $25 to $35 each way, I'll just do my shopping online. For building supplies, I would have to get those delivered anyway, because I did not own a truck. I just had a little Nissan Versa type car, and I wouldn't have been able to transport 2x4s and 4x8 sheets of plywood and things like that. So that's no different whether I'm driving or not driving. I would have to have gotten those brought to the house or all delivered to the property. There'll be some items that will be quite large. It will be hard to handle, like a full sheet of 3/4 inch 4x8 sheet of plywood. And you've already seen I've got the ATV and that wagon, and I'll use those to assist me in moving things around. So I plan to use whatever type of devices I can to safely build the house and move things around and try to keep myself from getting injured. I agree it is somewhat unusual for a 69-year-old person to be just building their house, but when someone is somewhat of a gypsy or a nomad, as I have been, this is sometimes what happens. And I don't have any regrets about the life that I've lived. I've had a very good life, and I've been able to see and enjoy a lot of things, either here in America, up in Canada, over in Europe, Asia, Russia, and so on. So although this is untraditional or unconventional for someone 69 years old to just be building their house, it is what it is, and I'm glad you're coming along to be a part of it. I've had a number of questions about my eyesight, and it had stabilized for quite a while and then went downhill again. and I basically have glaucoma, and yes, I do use eye drops and medication, but I do not hang around the doctor's office and spend a lot of time trying to find solutions. I've basically been told that I have nerve damage and there's not a lot they can do for nerve damage, and I'm sure there are some treatments and things like that, but I'm going to spend my time outside enjoying myself, doing what I can do, and if there's something on the horizon that I miss out on and I lose more of my eyesight, then that's just the choice that I've made. I've chosen not to spend my time chasing cures and things like that, and I've chosen to spend my time trying to build my homestead and enjoying myself. With that in mind, I have given up my photography. I can still do the camera work that's involved in photography, but I cannot get to the places that I want to get to at the times that I want to get there. When you're doing wildlife photography, the best times to take photographs is early in the morning and late in the evening. One, that is the time that the animals are generally out and most active, and two, that is the time when the light is the best. Now you can find other types of photography to do, and a lot of people will do that, like macro photography or shoot photographs of birds in your yard and things like that. And I may very well do some of that, but for right now I've given it up, and we'll see if I come back to it. I am able to do the astrophotography that I was interested in, because that does not involve any visually looking through the telescope. It involves simply setting up the telescope and using astronomy type cameras to take pictures and then being able to process things on the computer. My near eyesight is pretty good, and then my medium range eyesight is not so bad. So I'm dealing with what cards have been dealt me and what my poor care has resulted in, and I'm okay with it. So I know there's a lot of folks who may be critical of how I've taken care of myself, and I admit that I'm not very good at taking care of myself, but that's just kind of the facts of life for me. Well, as you can tell, I get long-winded sometimes, but hopefully that answers some of your questions about the plans that I have and what I'm going to do. We will be following my progress as I build my kitchen cabinets and build various other things. I have lots of ideas of things I'd like to work on between now and when I actually work on the foundation, which will be in May. So don't think that it's just going to be the end of everything until May. I'm going to still attempt to put out a video every week or two, and to have these videos be something of value and show the progress that's being made on the new homestead. So I thank you so much for joining us here on Moose Villa Off Grid. If you would, please give us that old thumbs up icon, or like a roo as I like to call it, and we'll see you back here again very soon on Moose Villa Off Grid. Thank you so much. Say hi there. Hi, my name is Tapo. Hey, you like it, huh? You like it? You like your moosey, huh? Yeah.